o'clock. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Merry Christmas. We're being broadcast live over Van Buren Television, Channel 12. Are there any comments from the public that are not related to the line items being discussed? Any comments that are, we will hear them as non-agenda items at the end of the meeting. Clerk Wright, will you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Trustee Frazier.
Here.
Treasurer Bud.
Here.
Clerk Wright is present. Supervisor McNair.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. We have a motion for the approval of the revised agenda. The revisions are to move appointments to committee and commission members to new business and the addition of Resolution 2016-21, which is a moratorium on medical marijuana cultivation facilities. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
Moved by Trustee Frazier, supported by Trustee Miller. Are there any discussions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The consent agenda today is going to consist of the following things. A work study session minutes of the December 5th, 2016. The board meeting minutes of December 6th, 2016. The prepaid list of December 9th, 2016. The prepaid list of December 15th, 2016. The voucher list of December 20th, 2016. And approval of a request for the combination of lots, I have to read this, 83-018-02-0134-006, including 007, 008, 009, and 010 with conditions. May I have a motion for the approval of the revised consent
To
agenda?
the supervisor,
Yes.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Moved by Treasurer Bud, supported by Trustee White. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Tonight, we have no public hearing scheduled. We do have one correspondence today. If you give me a second here. It's correspondence to our fire department, and it is from the Belleville Area Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Belleville Area Chamber of Commerce, we want to express our thanks for another successful Winter Fest. Thank you for all of your help with the fireworks on Denton Road Bridge. The Chamber Board is aware that without the Van Buren Fire Department's help and participation, the Winterfest would not happen. Thank our fire department. All right,
I have one letter of correspondence.
please, Trustee White.
And this was a letter that was actually sent to Rosemary Otzman at the Belleville Area Independent, but it was also sent to all 7 trustees from George Deverich. It says, I just read your comments on the editorial page of the Independent regarding the landfill expansion. I, along with other residents, were very involved when the original host agreement was drafted. We all lived on Hannon Road south of Ecorse and did not want a landfill down the road from us. We had numerous public hearings, not like now, where I read about it in your paper first. Also, I have a copy of the original agreement. Rosemary, removing the golf course for landfill expansion was never part of the original host agreement. The golf course was to act as a buffer between the current landfill and the east-west artery Ecorse Road. The original drafters of the host community agreement were very aware and concerned of the possibility that sometime in the future, Waste Management would try to expand into the 180-acre buffer zone, the current golf course. Therefore, safeguards were written into the agreement to prevent expansion. Section 21 of the host agreement required Waste Management to file a deed restriction on the 180 acres. The restrictions state that a landfill or disposal facility cannot be located on the 180 acres. The document was signed by all parties May 14, 1990. These restrictions follow the property. I don't know how they could be changed. I'm not an attorney. Phil Hart never should have started negotiations with Waste Management. When they mentioned expanding into the golf course, his answer in the township should have been no, read the agreement. In addition, I am tired of hearing the residents of Van Buren Township are spoiled because we do not have to pay for trash pickup. What we do have is every community's trash, stink, and nonstop truck traffic. So give the residents a break. We deserve something. We've had the landfill sited in our backyards by the state of Michigan, no choice. We fought it and lost, and we got the best deal we could get from Waste Management. At least honor it, especially no expansion and free trash pickup. The new political team needs to be more fiscally responsible, operate within the tax revenue collected. George Jeverich. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other board members that have any correspondence today? Hearing none, we're going to move on to public comment. At this time, any discussion is open for public comment on new business agenda items. Come on forward. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ernie Tozer. I reside at 9200 Hannon Road in Van Buren Township. And I just have a question for you regarding these appointments. When you run for office in Van Buren Township, to represent Van Buren Township, you are required to be a resident. Is that correct? When it comes to appointments, are these people who are being appointed to these various positions, are they screened to make sure that they also are Van Buren Township residents?
No.
Why not?
We prefer it, but we don't require it. We
Well-
also don't require, we also by state law do not require them to remain residents who are. State law doesn't allow us to do that anymore.
Well, that's, to me, that's disappointing,
We
because,
don't require it at all. It's not a requirement that you have to live in the township to work for the township. We don't require that, and it's not a requirement.
I didn't
don't
say work for
recommend
the
it.
township.
We actually are not allowed to
We're not
require
allowed
that.
to do that, no.
Well, I beg to differ. And it's the board who has made these kind of comments in the past. When we were talking about businesses moving into the township, there were comments made by the previous board saying, oh, wait a minute, we can screen that out. We can make sure that if they're not Van Buren Township residents, their resume, their application, I was in the meetings and heard it. Be careful.
There, you know what, you
And,
could do that illegally. But
okay.
remember the city of Detroit and all the police and fire that lived in the city of Detroit?
Yes, I
And they were-
understand all
And the
that.
state said you can't do that anymore, and they all moved out in mass. And I gotta say, 10% of the police officers and firefighters now live in Van Buren. They'll tell you that that's a rule.
I understand all that. All I'm asking you is if the people who are going to help make the decisions in this township, I am more comfortable if they are residents of this township, because they have a vested interest in making sure that we're doing things the right way, or they're for the general good, or for all those right reasons, okay? And I am led to believe that there are people who are in these appointed positions who don't live in the township. And they were, I don't want to get into all that, but I would be more comfortable if I knew that those people were my neighbors and they're representing me, because one of the things the board has been guilty of in the past, and you used some of my time, so just let me finish this.
I mean,
No, I forgot where I was going to go.
go ahead. Don't worry about that. You continue.
Yeah, but now I've lost my
Okay.
train of thought.
It's
Where was
heard
I?
loud and clear, and yes, we do prefer to hire from within the community, but it's not always going to happen that way.
Mr. Supervisor.
Okay,
Chair,
Yes.
I don't think that Mr. Tozer is talking about employees. I think he's talking about people on the review board.
appointed positions. And what it was going,
Appointed positions to the review board. He's asking
for
if
any of these appointed positions.
Anybody
Because-
that's
and
on a
don't let
committee
me-
or commission is from Van Buren that I know of.
But Through the chair.
Oh.
He has to be talking about what's on the agenda item because this is public comment too.
Well, there are a number,
The reviews are.
there are a number of appointees here, and that's why I brought this up. And what I was going to say previously was, the board accepts recommendations from their subcommittees, or whatever you choose to call it.
Correct.
Right? And in the past, it has been my experience that the board would carte blanche accept those things, and even when it was pointed out that there may be a problem with that and somebody ought to look into it, it never got looked into. It was deferred to this committee, who has professional people and knows all this stuff. They recommended that this is what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to do. And there was no discussion on it.
And Mr. Kozar, we've already gone over the time, but
All right, okay.
but I hear you loud and clear, and I can tell you that I do not know of a single person on a committee. Do we have anybody on any committee that is not a Van Buren
Okay, just,
president?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. White.
I have the 4 applications in front of me, Mr. Tozier, and here's the addresses: Lake Point Pass, Alden, North Shore, Belleville Road, for the 4 that are going to be appointed tonight, so.
And you're right, you should be concerned if we were doing that.
Okay. Well, I just wanted,
Thank you.
it was my show.
We'll make sure we won't do that. We're,
I think he was talking about.
okay, I'm sorry, let me see where I am here. Okay, thank you. All right, tonight we have no unfinished business. Wait, is there anybody else from the public? Hearing none. Tonight we have no unfinished business. We're going to move right into new business. The first bit of new business is to consider approval of the reappointment of Robert McKenna as a full member of the Board of Zoning Appeals with a term to expire on 12/1/2019. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion.
I'm gonna have a fight over this one, huh? Okay, moved by Leon Wright, supported by trustee
White.
White. Okay? Mr. McKenna has served on several commissions and committees in Van Buren Township and has indicated his interest to continue to serve the community by being reappointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. McKenna, this board has recognized you as an asset to the community and to our boards. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
Just as a member of the planning commission, when Bob served for a very long time before he decided that maybe the BZA should zap him up, and they did. So we definitely miss him on the planning commission. His wealth of knowledge is greatly appreciated on whatever committee he sits on.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you for serving.
Okay, the next item. To consider the approval and reappointment of Angela Netro, Juanita Jensen, Harry Roche, and Loretta Speaks as an alternate to the Board of Review, which terms expire on 12/31/2018. Linda Stevenson, can you give us a
Good evening. First off, I'm going to apologize because I should have the exact years that all 4 of them came on the board. Angela Netro and Juanita Jensen have been on it the longest, and I apologize for not having the exact year, but they've been on it the longest. They are all township residents, and I can add to that with the Board of Review, they are required in the General Property Tax Act law to be residents of the township. And there's also other rulings in the General Property Tax Act law in regard to that, like they cannot be related to any members that are on the Board of Trustees, they can't be related to anybody in the assessing office. So these 4 members have worked wonderfully on the Board of Review. They work well together. They go to training all on their own. They study up the new laws, and they have a willing to serve, and they all filled out new applications for your review.
I recognize that these members have contributed greatly to this committee and have devoted their own personal time to training sessions along with keeping up with current property tax laws. they don't have a very popular position when they have to tell people what their taxes are.
Correct.
And I thank them for their time. Yes, trustee White.
Assessing Coordinator Stevenson, could you explain to us the necessity of an alternate?
Well, what would happen if, well, all right, let me just step back on that a little bit. The Board of Review, it has to be all consensus. 2 out of the 3 vote on it. But let's just say one of those members might have a conflict of interest. It might be their neighbor that's coming in to appeal their assessment, or it might be someone that they've had business dealings with, or it might be a relative. So they can excuse themselves, leave the room, and then the alternate will step in to take that voting position then.
Thank you.
And plus, that alternate's always in the room. So let's say towards the end of Board of Review, when they're getting ready to make their decisions, because they don't make their decisions right then and there. They come back and meet to make their decisions. Let's say someone falls ill or isn't able to attend, then the alternate can always fill in for them.
Okay, are there any further questions? Hearing none, a motion is in line.
I'd just like to comment that I think we're very fortunate to have the experience of a local realtor who can add information and has access to information to make comparable sales available to the board when they are reviewing property assessments. I think that's very helpful to the individual so that they understand further how their property is valued.
Trustee
So-
Frazier, would you like to make the motion?
I move that we accept the reappointment for the Board of Review of Angela Netro, Juanita Jensen, Harry Roosh, and Loretta Speaks.
We have a motion and we have support by trustee Martin. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're moving to the next item. The motion is to consider approval of the reappointment of Carol Thompson and Joan Franzoy to the Planning Commission with terms to expire on 10/1/2019.
Through the chair.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Treasurer Bud.
As the board rep to the Planning Commission, these 2 women have been very valuable to work with. Carol has been an excellent chair of this Planning Commission for a number of years. And so with that, I would like to request the approval of the reappointment of Carol Thompson and Joan Franzoy to the Planning Commission with terms to expire 10/1/2019.
Support.
We have a motion by Treasurer Bud and support by trustee Miller. Are there any further comments from the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The next item will be to consider approval of Resolution 2016-20, the Downriver Utilities Water Authority Services Agreement. Director, can you please give us an update on that?
Yes, I've included the copy of the resolution, which was drafted for the purpose of approving the service agreement between the 13 communities of the Downriver system and the Downriver Utility Wastewater, or the Downriver plant. The reason for this resolution is simply to begin the process of the ultimate transfer of the system to the DUWA Authority, which is the Downriver Utilities Wastewater Authority. DUWA will be taking over the plant operations from Wayne County, and this transfer is a long process. We have probably a good year looking in front of us in terms of making sure all the steps, and basically this is the first step in terms of beginning this process. In order for us to secure any kind of a bond rating for the Downriver Authority, there has to be a service agreement in place. This agreement is very, very similar to the one that was also passed by this board earlier last year, or this past year, in order to have this in place. Right now, there's been some amendments that were made, that were changes. This resolution has been brought to you, and the service agreement, you've had an opportunity to review it. And this agreement, like I said, what it will do is it'll be the first step in moving us towards the transfer of the system.
In order to obtain bond ratings, we must have a service agreement in place. We cannot obtain one if we don't. It requires all 13 communities of the downriver system to approve this service agreement. If the board chooses to approve it tonight, I believe you'll be number 10, with a few more that are scheduled for later this week or early in January of 2017.
Are there any questions?
I just want to make sure that I understood this. So Wayne County wants to sell, they're going to sell, it doesn't matter to who they are going to sell.
Yes, they are going to get rid of
And
their
the-
system, yes.
They're not going to do the system anymore. So it's a necessity that somebody step up. And it's better for us to purchase it, or to form this,
Yeah, the
the
downriver,
13.
yes, if I may say, the Downriver Authority is already in place. What this does is simply puts a service agreement in place for us to manage and operate and raise revenue that would be required if the township chose to become an owner. That decision has yet to be made. This does not obligate us to take on that responsibility at this time. All this does is set us up to be able to get the bond ratings and get this process underway.
So really, it's a win-win situation for us, because all 13 communities have to, 10 of them, or 9 other communities have okayed it. We would be the 10th, and there's just 3 more to go, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then we would be able to get the bond rating and be able to.
And then the next step in the
service
process.
The service agreement
Right.
would be in place, and then if we wanted to purchase it, we could.
That would be something, again,
Farther
that would
down the line.
down the line, and the community, the board's going to have to consider all the ramifications of that, debate that, discuss it, and make a decision later on.
Trustee White.
Supervisor McNamara. During my term as supervisor, I was on the executive board of the Downriver Wastewater Utility Authority, and also part of the executive committee. I was a member of that authority, actually, when we were in the process of becoming an authority through the state, so I went through everything with that. Mr. Henshaw is an outstanding person to help operate that and run that, and I think this will be very beneficial to the residents of Van Buren Township to break away and have our own operating system for sewage, or we'll be part owner in that, and be under the control of the 13 communities. And with that, I would like to move to approve Resolution 2016-20, the Downriver Utilities Wastewater Authority Service Agreement.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Support.
I have support from Trustee Frazier. Are there any other discussions from the board? Any other questions?
I just like to say water is crucial and very important, as we've learned. Sewer is, well, I don't have sewers, Paul, but, okay.
Neither do
But
I.
sewer is very important also. But, you know, water is a key commodity that we need. And as long as we have more control over the rates that we pay, I think it's beneficial to our stakeholders here in Van Buren. So,
Hearing no further comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item. Director, I understand you've got an issue. Please leave. Otherwise they stick around and we don't need you. All right, next item. This is to consider approval of Resolution 2016-21, a moratorium to defer the revenue of applications pertaining to medical marijuana cultivation facilities until May 20th of 2017. Director, can you give us an overview?
Yes, sir. Board, if you are, as you are aware from our work study yesterday, we discussed the previous inaction of a change in our ordinances which allowed for grow facilities to be done in the township under certain conditions for the use of, for medical marijuana growth. This has nothing to do with, our current rule has nothing to do with residential users. It has to do with industrial growing of marijuana for caregivers that can then group together up to 72 plants, up to 6 caregivers together in a facility, and allowing those to be sited in the township.
You know, just because you're on TV, I want to make very clear, this was done by the last board.
Yes, sir.
As a defense mechanism, because the state of Michigan passed a law that allowed it. And unless the last board, Leon and Reggie, you guys and Sherry, you passed a very restrictive zoning ordinance to say, okay, you can force it on us, but we're only going to allow it in certain areas. And the reason you're here now is because they just changed the law, and we may be able to do something about that. So go on from there. I want to make sure everybody understands that we're not.
Yeah, there was, under the previous law of the state, we would have to have some type of zoning allowing that type of use. We made that assessment. It wasn't to exclude anyone, it was actually to try to find a place that worked for us in the township, as you were getting to. In the past month or so, the state of Michigan passed a new law. And what the new law says is it allows for medical marijuana facilities outside of residential growing use and personal users. It allowed those facilities to have growers, processors, provisioning centers, i.e. dispensaries, secure transporters, people who transport from one facility to another, or facility to caregiver to patient, and safety compliance facilities, which are testing labs for the growth of marijuana. The Michigan Municipal League has provided a fact sheet, which is in the packet. And in basic, what it says is you, as a township, have the ability, or as a municipality, have the ability to either say, we want all 5 of these things in our community, we want 1 of them in our community, we want 3 of them in our community, or we can opt out and offer none of them in our community. We have until January of 2018 to decide, that's when the new law goes into play, what we are going to do as a township to comply with the new law, whether we're going to allow growers or no growers, processors and provisioning centers, or to opt out completely. In order to give the new township board the ability to make a good decision and for the best of our residents, what we've proposed to the township board is that in order to protect your decision-making and to have allow you to have an unbiased process, if we've proposed a moratorium on accepting applications for grow facilities for marijuana growing under our current ordinance. Because what could happen is tomorrow someone could come in and say, under your current ordinance, we'd like to open up a grow facility. And then 3 months from now, after you've done your homework and made a decision on how you want to do this, you might decide to opt out and not have any in the township. You would have 1 center in the community after you've said you wanted to opt out. So rather than have an orphaned facility, a non-conforming facility, what we're offering you is the opportunity with this moratorium to take your time and make a decision based on what your research says and what the residents say and what your decision-making is.
I know
with that,
those questions.
With that, I'd be happy to answer the questions that you have.
Trustee Miller, do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Trustee Frazier?
Well, I just want to make sure I understand this. So the state law is that there can be individual growers for medical, who have medical license.
The state law that we're talking about.
That's allowed though in Van Buren Township, right?
Well, there's 2 laws that cover medical marijuana. There's the one that from 2008, which is the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, which covers the personal growers, the personal residential growers, and the caregiver rule, which kind of we're following a little bit with this 72 plants. And then there's the new rules that were adopted, which talk about medical marijuana cultivation facilities, and that's these 5 facilities. The new rule that we're talking about, plus the rule that we enacted in June of 2016, has nothing to do with residential users at all. Residential users can continue to do what they're doing no matter what we decide. It's about how facilities will be sited in our community outside of residential districts, whether we'll allow them in commercial, whether we'll allow them industrial, and what types of facilities they will be.
So if we pass this moratorium, tonight, then starting tomorrow, we have 6 months in order before we have to make a decision.
We'd have 6 months to hold off on accepting applications under our current ordinance.
Okay.
That's what we're deciding tonight. Basically to say, we're not accepting any applications under our ordinance that allows for the grow facilities of marijuana in the M2 districts, the heavy industrial districts, if they meet all the criteria and have all the appropriate items of information for a completed application. We're saying from tonight until 6 months from now, we will not accept any applications until we make a second decision, or the moratorium wears off, or you renew the moratorium for an additional 6 months.
So we wouldn't take any applications. And then we could extend it if we wanted to at the end of 6 months, or if we make a decision to accept. I mean,
We could
personally, I'm for accepting no growers in Van Buren Township, because we can see what our neighbors are facing right now with, what is facing a neighboring community, Sumter, and we certainly don't want to get in those predicaments. And it's almost like marijuana growers are an epidemic in our society, unfortunately. And I heard tonight that they're allowing it to be eaten in brownies and something else, in food. And that's going to be allowed also. So,
Bottom line is, the state of Michigan passed a law. We're living under that law. We currently allow them to build a marijuana cultivation facility. We are shutting that system down for 6 months while we take a moment, decide what we're gonna do, and move forward.
but we don't have any growing operations.
No, but we could. They
I
could walk
know.
in and ask us for one, and we'd be stuck.
Okay,
But
but
we're
we
gonna
don't
stop
have any
it.
at this point. And I think it would be helpful to us to get information. I didn't have a chance today to call Chief Lorraine regarding the criminal aspects in our township, how it affects, how many arrests there are, how many prosecutions they are at 34th District Court or whatever regarding this issue. But I'd like to have some kind of feedback, and if it is, how many arrests are made in Van Buren
We will spend a
regarding
long
this.
time talking about
Yeah.
this. So
Do we
Trustee
still
Miller.
have a subcommittee in place that will make a recommendation and do further research as this evolves?
Through the chair, if the Board of Trustees would like the existing committee to continue to operate, we would be happy to do that.
I think it would be important.
We can do that if you'd like.
Well, what committee is this? I mean, is this,
I would probably have
was
sent
on
it to
that?
the planning commission
There's-
to have them come back and say they don't want it, but it's up to you guys. You guys are the boss.
Through
who was on the
Through the
committee?
chair, the members of the Planning Commission and members of the Department of Public Services, as well as representatives from the Supervisor's Office, all are a part of that committee.
Okay.
Trustee White.
Supervisor McNamara. Just to clarify this, so we all have a clear understanding of it, residential growers can continue to grow as they have in the past, and what we are having a moratorium against is commercial growing to sell. Is that basically correct?
We have nothing to do with the residential growing.
Correct.
The enforcement of that, that's through the state. And you'd have to ask the police chief and the deputy
Right,
police
right.
chief for further clarification for that. What our current law allows is for the commercial growing in the M2 district with 6 caregivers, with 72 plants each growing, we would be saying we're not accepting applications at this time. It basically puts a hold on that process because the new law changes everything.
Thank you.
And
Make no mistake, we get a call every week, maybe numerous calls, by people looking to put a cultivation facility in Van Buren.
And through the chair, that is correct. We have met with several serious people who are looking to site facilities in our community.
And with that, Supervisor McNamara, I would like to approve the resolution, make a motion to approve the resolution 2016-20, Resolution 2016-21, a moratorium to defer the review of applications pertaining to medical marijuana cultivation facilities until May 20th, 2017.
Can I get a second? It's been moved by trustee White, supported by trustee Frazier to pass this motion. Are there any other discussions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? This motion passes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Okay, this next item is for... Okay, the next item is to consider the approval of the residential field appraiser job description and personal service agreement between Gina DeRazio and the township. I want to state that this has already been passed, the pay scale has already been passed through the budget, and this is about the personal services contract because we approved those. I can say that it does match the employee benefits, it does match the other personal service agreements here. It has been reviewed by the attorneys, as does the other two that we're about to pass. Can I get a motion for approval?
Supervisor McNamara,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the residential field appraiser job description and personal services agreement between Gina DeRazio and the township.
Support.
Who's supported?
Support.
Support. Been supported by trustee White and supported by trustee Miller. Are there any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then-
I just like to say, I think it's great to have an individual working in the appraiser's office who was willing to step up and to further their education and their certification to move forward. And, that is a...
Township resident.
And a township resident, right?
Great.
Thank you.
The next item is to consider approval of the Human Resources Director job description and the personal service agreement between Nicole Sumter and the township. Can I get a motion for approval?
Mr. Supervisor,
Trustee, Treasurer Bud.
I make a motion that we approve the Human Resource Director job description and the personal service agreement between Nicole Sumter and Van Buren Township.
Support.
Support.
Miller.
Miller. Okay, it's been moved by Treasurer Bud and supported by trustee Miller. Are there any discussions? Here.
Again, I'd just like to say that Ms. Sumter had been working as a benefit coordinator, and she was interested and showed initiative to move forward and to get certification and her degree in human resources. I think it's a position that's needed in the township at this point with the number of staff we have and the number of laws that we have to keep track of. But she will be doing benefits coordination also on top of the many other duties associated with human resources.
Correct. Any other discussions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, to consider approval of executive assistant job description and personal service agreement between Dan Selman and the township. Can I get a motion for approval?
Supervisor,
Thank you. Trustee?
I move that we consider the approval of executive assistant job description and personal service agreement between Daniel Selman and the township.
Trustee Martin? Support?
Support.
I supported it.
You got three.
Really?
You got two.
I'll take Frazier. Okay, been moved by trustee Martin, supported by trustee Frazier. Are there any questions?
Again, I'd just like to say that at first I was apprehensive about the appointment, but I can say that Mr. Selman has done an excellent job so far from everything I've seen, and that he's has a degree in local government, and I think he's a very astute person and will do the township a great deal of service. And I appreciate you picking someone who's young and has, will bring a different perspective to the township.
Feel all Christmassy. Okay, hearing no other, trustee White.
Supervisor McNamara, I've had quite a bit of conversation and requests from Executive Assistant Daniel Selman, and I would like to express the opinion that he is your executive assistant, and I believe that although he's not labeled a deputy supervisor, that he has the right, that you have the right to choose who you want to be your executive assistant. And there's been many questions about that, but every interaction that I've had with him, he's been very, very direct and very responsible, and has taken care of everything in a very quick and good fashion.
You
So
better.
Through the chair. Supervisor, even though I understand that it is your choice and who you choose to fill this very important role, I feel this is an executive level position, and based on Mr. Selman's qualifications, I feel coming out of school that education is not a replacement for job experience. Therefore, I respect your decision, but I will be voting no.
I respect your no. Thank you.
There is one comment I'd just like to make regarding the process of how we fill positions at the township. It alarms me, and it's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a good process to just, to say to somebody, well, we're anointing you and you move up to the next level. I think if we're gonna, I want to move our inside candidates up, but I also want them to hold their own against an outside candidate. And I think all jobs at the township level need to be posted in a timely manner. They take internal candidates, and anybody that's interested in the job who works for the township already should have to go through the interview process of a committee, fill out the application and the whole thing, the resume. And we should also put the job out there on the market, and anybody who would like to, who has the qualifications, should apply. And then we can hold our inside candidate up against outside candidates, and we can say we made the best choice. And in the, in some of these instances, we have not done that, and I think that is bad business. Having served on another board that made a very high-level appointment, and appointed someone who was an inside candidate, and we did not interview one single person from outside, it turned out to be not a wise choice for that particular board. And I'm talking about the school board. And I certainly don't want to see the township fall into that kind of level of, it's almost like mediocrity, I would say. Sometimes when you post a job and you go for outside candidates, you bring a different perspective to the organization and new energy and whatever. When you only promote from within, it can not turn out to be in the best interest of the organization if they want to continue to move forward.
Through the chair.
Trustee Miller.
I agree with many of the comments that Trustee Frazier is saying. I think you need to pick the right person, but you're questioning the process. I would support a further discussion, if you want to make a motion, about further discussion on setting a policy.
What?
On a policy on the process, on how we advertise when there is an opening. So I'm open to that. So if you'd like to make that, I would support that at the work study.
We're not on that motion right now, but yeah.
No, but I'm saying I would
Sure.
support
Yes.
that.
Maybe we could have this added
I would
to
like-
consideration for an agenda item for discussion that our process of hiring be looked at and we form a committee to make recommendations to the board as a
We're
whole.
moving off the item, but
Okay,
two
but,
trustees, and I hear two,
okay,
get to decide if it becomes an agenda item. And I think that we have two trustees that want that to be an agenda item at our next board meeting.
thank you.
Supervisor,
Trustee White?
I agree with trustee Miller and trustee Frazier. When I worked for Kroger, I hired many people. And generally, people that had a union certificate. And it is a challenge to do that. And I would recommend that even to add to everything that the two trustees have stated, that we could also put every new employee on a 90-day probation period and move forward with a situation like that in the future.
This board
But
has that right.
I understand that. And,
I mean, I don't know what the union contract calls for, that's why. I
well,
gotta be
no,
careful.
but this is, no, but there's a lot of good comments that they brought forth in our hiring process, whereas we get politics out of our hiring process. And as everyone knows, we're in a political scene, but politics doesn't always make good bedfellows, so.
All right, wonderful discussion. We can have it at the next meeting. We have a motion by trustee Martin and seconded by trustee Frazier. Any further discussion on the job description and personal service contract?
For
Hearing none?
Dan.
Poor Dan.
For Dan, I'm sorry, for Dan Summon. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Opposed.
Trustee Miller opposes. Motion passes.
Roll call.
No, roll call.
You got a roll call with one?
Yeah.
You guys got a tough board. Okay. All right, clerk, could you please call roll?
Trustee Frazier.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
No.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Treasurer Bud.
Yes.
Clerk White votes yes. Supervisor McNair.
Yes?
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, next item. There are no reports tonight. So we're going to do announcements, and I'm going to go last because I have a feeling that some other people are going to have some of my announcements, and I'll let them take it. So, clerk?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'd like to start with the announcement that the township administrative offices will be closed Friday, December 23rd, 2016 through January 2nd, 2017 in observance of the Christmas holiday. Once again, this year the clerk's office will be distributing 10 coats of the for each Van Buren Public School, elementary and middle schools through our Coats for School Kids program. This program is made possible by the generous donation of Supervisor McNair, Treasurer Bud, Trustee Miller, the law firm of Greco, Grisord, Morgan, McCauley, and Guston, McKenna & Associates, the law firm of Johnson Rosati, Wade Trim Engineering, Waste Management, and Burnham Flower. We thank those people for contributing every year. Hopefully this is something we do every year. I encourage new board members to come on board and do the same next year. Hopefully we can add a few more coats. Well, it's hard to believe that it's already time to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. What a great year we've had in the clerk office. This past year has been a year of many accomplishments, and we look forward to the successes that lie ahead for us in the clerk department. Working together, we can do great things. So as we celebrate this holiday season, let us take this time to reflect and count our blessings. The greatest gift we could exchange this season is to serve one another. May I ask you all to remember your neighbors at this time of year, especially the elderly and those who live alone. I would also like to extend a special welcome to those who have come home to Van Buren Township to visit their families, and a heartfelt thank to those in the military who's unable to be with their families. And my best wishes for a speedy recovery for those who are sick in the hospital this holiday season. From the clerk offices and my dedicated staff, we would like to wish you a very blessed holiday season, the best of holidays to come. Thank you.
other announcements?
I'd like to make it.
Yes, go ahead.
On behalf of all the trustees, I would like to wish every Van Buren Township resident a very Merry Christmas, and also for all of us to remember our armed forces overseas who will not be with their families at this time of the year, to wish them a very Merry Christmas. It's very appropriate. And to also, if you have any kids in your neighborhood, just give them a small gift to let them know the meaning of good neighbors, the meaning of Christmas. And it doesn't have to be something very expensive. We buy several gifts, for $10, and it just creates a lot of good neighborhood will. And just to be sure that everyone has a happy and safe Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
Okay, I have a few things. First of all, if my wife's watching, my wife's daughter, my stepdaughter, is 26 years old, lives in San Francisco, and she just had a baby boy, healthy baby boy, about 3 hours ago. So I'm feeling very, very happy. It's our first grandchild, and I can't get the beam off my face. Very happy. Yeah, she's far away, so
First one's good,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they keep coming.
Okay, so let's see, we have other things. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it. Trustee White had a lot to do with this, but Menards has announced again that they're coming this year. So, I feel a little bit like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football, but we'll see how it works out. We'll keep you up to speed on that. On Tuesday, the museum Christmas party was held. We want to thank Katie Dallas. It was very well attended. It was a great time. On Tuesday also, there was an annual Shop with a Hero. We had 35 families. Myers donated $200 gift certificates, and so did Walmart's. And what happened is the police, firefighters, and dispatch got together, and they brought the kids in, and they gave them each a $200 card, and it was at needs families around here. And then the kids would choose a hero to go shopping with, and it was pretty cute. I was there. Nobody picked me. But it was cute.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, it was, but it was cute. It would have made a great commercial. Some of these kids just beamed. They shot right over and they bought the Wii, or they blew the money so fast and they bought the thing, and their police officer was walking out. One of the police officers was walking in circles for an hour and a half. This kid hadn't bought anything. He finally picked a Matchbox car for 99 cents. I heard he was in there for 3 hours, and he stayed the whole time with that kid. But it's just wonder what Myers and Walmart have done. And Police Officer Ron Bidwell, who runs that every year, we have to say thank you to him. This week they had a Christmas tree that was loaded up with winter hats, mittens, and gloves. And everybody, thank you for filling up for Goodfellows. And we hauled a lot of stuff out of here. We also had a Christmas potluck for the generous senior volunteers. We've got quite a few of them. They do the Meals on Wheels. They feed them. They go out and help them out. And we've got that stuff going on right now. The DDA wants to remind you to shop local. So help out our local residents. And that's all I have. Merry Christmas.
Supervisor McNamara.
Go ahead.
No one is more pleased than I am to hear the news that Menards is coming to Van Buren Township. I spent a lot of time getting Menards. It took me about 3 months before I could get to the person in Menards who was in charge of locating stores. And I traveled to Toledo a couple of times to meet with a couple of folks there, and also out to Jackson to meet with a couple of folks. And also, the property where it was originally supposed to be located, the Farmer Jack property, was owned by Dick Sloan. Dick Sloan is no longer with us, but I had several telephone calls with Dick Sloan when he was in California. And then everything settled down for a couple of weeks, and just out of the clear blue, I got a telephone call. It was from Dick Sloan. And Dick Sloan at that time told me that he had reached an agreement with Menards for the Farmer Jack property, and it looked like it was going to move forward. And then from that point, everything seemed to be going for a while, but Menards builds just 2 or 3 stores a year, and I'm really tickled and excited to know that they're considering Van Buren Township, and I hope that it really happens this year, because that would be a great business for us to have in our community. It'll add to the tax base, and it'll also save us mileage to drive to Lowe's or Home Depot. So if I'm correct and remember correctly, that will bring us about 150 jobs, 75 full-time, 75 part-time, if I can remember correctly on that. And once Menards starts building, that building will go up real fast because Menards has their own building crew. They precast all of the outside for the building, and it'll go up real quick. When the semi pulls in at midnight, that semi will be empty the next morning by 8 o'clock and on its way back to Wisconsin. Menards is one of the richest companies in Wisconsin. They operate their own sawmill, saw their own lumber. They make a lot of their own rafters and their trusses. They also make their own wrenches and a lot of other equipment like that, and now they do a little bit of selling into other areas. So that would be very, very beneficial to our township residents, especially with the 150 jobs. Thank you for all your help and support on that, Supervisor McNamara, and let's all give a big shout out for the Menards store and hope it's open by this time next year.
I just like to, I noticed that we have is that a Eagle Scout out there? Or a Boy Scout?
1, 2, 3.
Boy Scout here today, and I'm glad to see you in the audience. Are you working on a badge? Okay, I'm glad to see a young person here because our democracy is only as good as our participation in the democracy is. And it's so important for young people to get involved in how township works and how all our systems work. And I'm glad to see you here. And I'd like to say a shout out to our local newspaper. Miss Otzman never fails to show up in her dedication to getting the word out. And you know, the newspaper is an important asset for any community. And now that we're down to just one newspaper, I think, you know, we need to recognize the contribution that they make. And just our technology, too.
Okay, because everyone wants to say Merry Christmas, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then we're all going to say Merry Christmas. Allie, zoom out. Get this? 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas.
Make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
I need a movement for adjournment.
You
This is
bet.
Sherry Budd,
Support?
supported by Leanne
Oh,
Wright.
no,
All in
yeah,
favor?
Wait,
Aye.
we forgot, non-agenda.
Oh, whoa,
Non-agenda.
whoa, I am sorry. I am so sorry. That was, I warned them that I would mess up every one of these somehow.
That's okay. I was right there with you.
Non-agenda items, would that be the public,
That's
No,
not
it's just
agenda.
anybody that has a non-agenda.
come on up. I know you want to talk, Mr. Kozar. I'm so sorry.
What I'm looking for is an update on this Fifth Amendment to the host community agreement for the landfill. I don't, and I know some of the new board members have no idea what all this stuff entails. I have read the host community agreement, the original one, and we went through negotiations. We sat down as a township with Waste Management and are trying to work things out. If you read the host community agreement, the original document, there's nothing to be gained by sitting down and talking with anyone because that landfill, according to the document, cannot be expanded into the south 180 acres. There was a chain of things that were supposed to happen where Waste Management had options to do other things with the property, and if it didn't happen, it turns into a golf course. And once it turns into a golf course, that's the end use. So unless something is changed,
I can tell you that this board will be dealing with that beginning in January. Documents are being put together. I have not even read them, Mr. Kozar. You could be absolutely correct. We are going to take a long time to review this. And if that's the case, that's the case. I'm whatever happens, happens. But
I agree. And
we
I
are
just,
brand new at this.
yeah, Trustee White brought up that letter from George Deverich. George is one of the neighbors. we've had discussions about this, and I just wanted to point out that not only has George read the documents, I've read that document, and that's what it says to me. Now, I don't know what's transpired since then in the way of other amendments. I have some knowledge on some of them, but I couldn't swear to knowing all this stuff in all of them. But I just wanted to make sure
This
that
is
we're
going
all...
to be a big discussion starting in January. I really don't want to start it tonight. It's,
No, and
because
I-
we really, only a few of us are understanding that right now.
Right, I agree. And
Thank
it's,
you, Mr.
it's
Kozak.
going to be a major,
Okay.
major deal. Thank
Are
you.
there any other discussion? Yes.
I would like
Trustee Miller?
to congratulate Gina, Nicole, and also Dan to the township. You've all earned it, and we welcome you with open arms, so.
And you've already been working, so
some
we're
of you
cracking
know-
the whip
Yay,
now.
It's official.
Okay, now can I call for adjournment?
Yes.
Thank you. Moved by Treasurer Bud.
Still supported.
All right, supports. What, I don't know when the next meeting is. January 9th or 10th.
January the 10th.
All in favor of
All right.
adjournment?
Not negotiable, let's go.
Okay, opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
January